Welcome in to the show. This is Purple Daily. Phil Mackey, Judd Zulgad, Declan Goff. You can find full episodes every single day, Purple Daily, on Apple, Spotify, scorenorth.com in audio form. Also, scorenorth.com is just our hub for everything we do. Purple Daily, Mackey and Judd, The Scoop with Doogie, Royce Unchained. And on YouTube, we've got, I think, over 12,000 subscribers now. So thank you all for helping us jump over that landmark. And you can click that subscribe button and spread the word by telling some Viking fan friends that we do this and we have fun, entertaining, and sometimes really honest and truthful discussions about a team that we would like to see win a Super Bowl before we all die here. So this is a bit of a breaking news episode because yesterday it came out that Gary Kubiak is officially stepping down and retiring as offensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings. He unleashed lavish praise and thanks to the organization and to everybody that he's worked with. Gary Kubiak winds up with a pretty damn good head coaching and coordinating career over the last 25 years and even as a backup quarterback in the NFL. But, Judd, let's start this thing off with Gary Kubiak stepping down. What happens next for the Vikings and offensive coordinator? Is it as simple as, well, his son just steps in, Clint Kubiak, and now we got Zimmer's son over here on defense and Kubiak's son over here, and they're going to establish the run and play some defense. What do you think happens now?
So what I think happens and what I would like to see happen are two very different and separate things. What I think happens is exactly what you just said. I think that it transitions from Gary, who's now going to go home to his, I think, ranch in Texas.
Do all these coaches just have ranches?
Yeah, what's
like
up with
Zimmer's
these
got a ranch?
The old school ones, I think, like the ranch. They like to hunt. They like to kill things. Yeah, I think that they're old school ones. And, of course, our guy, Dan Campbell, who I'm sure is killing something right now as we speak. Might be a linebacker for all I know.
No, he's taking out kneecaps on some mammoths right now. Is what he's
Dan
doing.
Campbell doesn't just like football. Dan Campbell loves football.
The best.
Actually, hold on a second. We got it right here.
All right. Here's what I do know is that this team is going to take on the identity of this city. All right. And the city's been down and it found a way to get up. All right. It's found a way to overcome adversity. All right. And so this team's going to be built on, we're going to kick you in the teeth. All right. And when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. All right. And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. All right. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap and we're going to get up. And then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing. All right. That's going to be the mentality.
You're going to need 3 steps.
Football, yeah! Football!
You're going to need a Seth Rollins curb stop 3 times to take the beast out there and Dan Campbell.
Yeah, this is like a Brock Lesnar match where like he gets triple teamed with 3 finishers or something.
In saying that when I was trying to put this into words yesterday and I couldn't think of the right thing, but when I hear Dan Campbell talk, it sounds like right before he went to that podium that he like shoved an entire ham down his throat.
Oh yeah.
And like he's burping it up. He's like, I just ate an entire ham.
Yeah, that dude's never had a salad in his life.
No.
He only eats raw meat.
How is this guy not a suspect in like a lot of things too?
Oh, he might be
Like
by
I
the
can
end of
see
his Lions
coming up next on Dateline, a very interesting Detroit Lions coach is questioned. I mean, can you imagine Dan Campbell in the police box interrogation room?
I would be terrified to be in a room isolated with just him.
Oh, I'd shackle him.
But here's my other question.
I'd shackle Dan Campbell for sure.
And we'll get back on the Gary Kubiak, Clint Kubiak road here in a second. But like, why would you give a 6-year contract to a guy that might murder somebody? Wouldn't you want to hedge? Like, did you need to give him a 6-year contract? Don't you think he would have agreed to that job for like 3 years?
Of course he would have.
Like what?
Of course he would.
What leverage did he have to get 6 years?
Nobody gets 6 years, right?
How is this?
Like, what was Belichick's first contract with the Patriots? 5, maybe?
I don't. Well, and Belichick was on his 3rd stop because the Jets technically were his 2nd stop.
But no, you didn't need to give him 6.
Super weird.
Super weird. If you were a cop and brought Dan Campbell in for interrogation, would you not shackle him first thing?
100%.
Like, there's no way that I would allow him use of his legs or arms.
I bet if you put a tranquilizer shot in his neck,
it wouldn't affect him.
He probably just
asks for more.
Grins and asks for more.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then he'd bite your kneecap off.
Dan Campbell doesn't just like football. Dan Campbell loves football.
So anyway, let me get back to the Kubiak thing, and I'm going to do it in my best Dan
I don't know that
Campbell.
Kubiak loves football as much as Dan Campbell does, and that might be a problem for the Vikings.
A lot of people don't. It's a small list of men on this earth who love. I bet you that Dan Campbell has eaten a football before.
100%. 100%. You know how some people like taco salads, they come in a like a shell bowl.
Football.
I'm sure he's replaced
Football
that
bowl.
with a football, and he takes the tomatoes and lettuce out, and it's just meat.
And it's all football.
Yeah.
So as far as the Kubiak thing goes, my fear is that the Vikings are going to do what Phil was talking about, which is Clint's been the quarterback's coach now since Gary joined the staff to be basically a helper to Stefanski in 2019. And that Clint is now going to be promoted. And that seems like the simple thing. And it seems like, in my opinion, the lazy thing. But here's why I think it's going to happen. If you are a young OC, or forget young, if you are an OC with ideas, right? Like it's 2021 now. You got ideas. Oh my God, you've got Justin Jefferson, really? Oh my God, you've got Dalvin Cook, but he can be used in a lot of different ways, really? You've got Irv Smith Jr. is a really nice play. You know, Mike, can I sit down and talk to you about my philosophy for offense? Here are my ideas. Like we are going to open things up. Like your run to pass splits last year, not near sufficient. We're going to reverse those things. And I've got a lot of ideas. And then Mike looks at me and he's like, do you know Dan Campbell? And I'm like, yeah, Mike, he's crazy. Mike goes, so am I. And what I love is to eat footballs. And I run footballs, and that's what I do. Like after Flip in 2018, who's going to want the OC job here? Who's got ideas?
I think you've hit on something really important here, and that it doesn't seem like it, when Mike Zimmer first took the job and brought in Norv Turner, I thought, oh, this is Mike Zimmer knowing that he's the defensive expert, but as the CEO of the team, he's bringing in somebody that has head coaching experience and can mold an offense. And then Norv Turner called too many 7-step dropbacks for Teddy Bridgewater, and those guys got into shouting matches and fights, and that relationship blew up. And then a little further down the road, you bring in John DeFilippo to come in there, and okay, well, he's got his own offensive ideas, and they involve passing a lot, right? And it's like instead of creating this open environment for smart people to bring their offensive ideas and philosophies that might even just be a little bit of a shock to your system.
Sure.
He's looking to bring in someone that just does exactly what he wants, and then he doesn't have to deal with it.
Correct.
And that's what I want to see change. And I just don't.
But I don't think you're going to see a change.
Part of me wants to think he's been here for 7 years. He kind of knows that like he's on thin ice, even though he signed a contract extension. Like this, if things go south this year. But I think he truly believes the best way to win football games is to bolster that defense back up and hand the ball off 50% of the time in 2021. The teams, by the way, that are playing this weekend in the AFC and NFC championship games, in terms of run percentage, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were 28th in run percentage. The Kansas City Chiefs were 23rd, and the Buffalo Bills were 21st. All of them ran the ball less than 40% of the offensive snaps. The Green Bay Packers are kind of right there with the Vikings. The Vikings were 6th highest run percentage. Packers were 7th highest run percentage. And so the Packers have said, listen, we're going to take a little bit of the edge off Aaron Rodgers there, and it's working for them. But the other teams in front of the Vikings, one of them is Baltimore, and their run percentage is higher because Lamar Jackson just takes off 15 times a game, right?
Yes.
So I think just to sum up my issue, I would like to see the Vikings continue to run the ball as needed, but I don't want to see them run the ball as their main strategy for taking leads and winning games. Like, I want to see them be more dynamic in the passing game early on, take more chances, leverage Justin Jefferson's skill set more often, Irv Smith, like use your passing game as a tool to take leads early more often, and then use your running game as a weapon to maintain those leads in the second half.
The Vikings offense is currently run. One is done. In the Packers case, it's done because they've got an offensive guy who understands exactly what he wants and crafts that, right? Offense to Zim is, I want you to do it this way, and then we're done. So it's basically, to me, also, in watching what Mike wants from his offense in this era now, and right now this coach is actually successful in basketball, but he was not here and his offense didn't make sense. It's Tibbs. It's Tibbs. It's like, I've got this way. And you're like, but Tibbs, that's from 1998 or something like that. And he's like, I don't care. It worked then. It's going to work now. And you're like, no, the game changed. The other problem too, though, and this is at some point in time, and I know that, Norv to Shermer to Flip to Stefanski have all left at different times, and there have been different reasons for why they've departed. But at some point in time, Zim got this job in 2014. He is now what? He is now going to be on his 6th OOC. This becomes a referendum on you. Like, you can't lose. You're firing guys are quitting, and then guys leave. And I'm sure that Mike would say, yeah, but Shermer got a head coaching job. Stefanski did too. But that's all great. But Norv, if nothing else, stormed out the door. You fired Flip before a season was done. And by the way, he tried to put Kirk in shotgun and run a modern offense, and Kirk struggled, and you basically said, run more. And the other problem too, and this is why I think they're going to go with Clint Kubiak, and I don't like it, but I think it's why, is Kirk is going to be on his 4th OC in Minnesota in 4 years. So you basically brought a QB in, and every year you have now changed the main guy that he is communicating with as far as who runs his offense.
The only one I can really rip him for, though, is the DiFilippo move, where like they just read that one wrong.
But I'm saying I think Clint Kubiak gets this job because they will not now bring in a guy who will again come in and say, I know Stefanski did this, and Gary basically did the same exact thing, and I'm changing it.
And for the record, I am not calling for an overhaul of a system that Kirk feels comfortable in. If your plan is to go forward with Kirk Cousins, I think the worst thing you can do is say, all right, we're gonna do what we did with John DiFilippo and just like throw something completely new at him for the first time. I think it's smart to maintain most of what you're doing systematically, but I just think you need to skew more toward being aggressive and throwing the ball more in certain situations, ideally in the first half and ideally on like 2nd and short. So I guess what I'm saying is whether Clint Kubiak is the coordinator or you bring in somebody else to run a similar system, Jay Gruden's name is out there, even though we question what kind of relationship him and Kirk Cousins currently have.
Yeah, that might not
after
work.
How the Washington tenure ended.
How about Hugh Jackson?
He
just talked to Pittsburgh about, I think their offensive coordinator job.
I think he's a little bit too.
Oh yeah, I'm not going. I was kidding.
He's volatile. Okay, Hugh Jackson. So I think my point is, I think there's more you can maximize with the system you're running to be more aggressive and to have more upside to score more points without overhauling everything completely. And if Clint Kubiak is the guy to help do that, great. But I just wonder if like Clint Kubiak, there's a 30-year, 35-year age gap between him and Mike Zimmer. How much is Mike really going to, and he has no experience. Like he's been an NFL coach for like 4 years, he was a Kansas wide receivers coach when Mike Zimmer was in his 2nd year on the job in Minnesota.
Yeah. And he was here as like a quality control guy, I think in Les's last year, maybe Mike's first year.
He was,
but he's young,
but like, how is he going to walk into a room at age 33 with very little experience if he becomes the coordinator and say, Mike, we need to do this, and this.
No.
Like, I worry that it's just Mike Zimmer trying to find someone to be submissive and not bring new ideas to the table.
I think the fair concern about this, if they go the Clint Kubiak direction, is that they would be doing it for all the wrong, not right reasons. Like if they said our offense is really great and it's up to date and blah, 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 and this transition's perfect, right? But I think that Mike will turn to Clint, one, because if Clint gets the job, in some way, I'm sure Gary will stay involved. He might not be there a ton, but he would definitely stay involved and probably be a sounding board. And second of all, though, I think it's because they know that Clint Kubiak wouldn't go away from what Mike wants. And that's my problem. My problem is it feels like Mike wants to put the offensive philosophy on autopilot and walk away and be like, okay, now it's time to plan for defense.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's a realistic thing with the way that this league has gone.
Yeah.
It's basketball, right? Like it's Tibbs. It's Tibbs. It's the same thing, which is, this is how I like to do it. And you're like, but Tom, it doesn't work that way now. Like the rules have changed. Things have changed. Guys shoot threes a lot.
I think you have to ask yourself, because in sports, there's always a blueprint for what works. And if you're the one that's creating the new blueprint, then that's awesome. the Vikings certainly aren't creating a new blueprint, right? They're working off a blueprint that already exists, which is ball control. They try to work time of possession. Sometimes it doesn't work as well as they want to, and they play defense. And the teams that are and they've got a quarterback that's fine, but he's not, Hall of Fame level, and he's certainly not on a rookie contract. Okay, well, who are the other teams that are working that same formula? The Rams, the Titans, the Colts to some extent. There's probably a couple other teams out there, and those are playoff teams, and that's great. Like, that's the next step for the Vikings now that they missed the playoffs.
Sure.
But I don't really care that like 10-6 in a divisional round game is fine. Like, that makes them relevant again. I just wonder if the Rams, the Colts, and the Titans, and whatever the Vikings are doing, the Bears have sort of followed that same path, right? I don't know that you can win a Super Bowl doing that in a league where these teams that have Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen are just throwing haymakers offensively. Like, I don't know that you can do it. The number one defense, a team that looks like what the Vikings want to be, just played the Green Bay Packers in a playoff game and got their asses kicked. So what does that tell you? So So it's at this point in the podcast that somebody pulls up a statistical page from 2020, right? And starts typing in, but Phil and Judd, here are the Vikings ranks in DVOA and this statistic and this advanced metric, blah, blah, blah. All right, I'm going to tell you right now, because I know that someone's doing that. I'm going to tell you right now, I want you to do a very important thing. And I'm going to simplify this as much as we possibly can. I want you to call up targets for receivers. And I want you to look at Justin Jefferson and realize that in this era of football, there is no way that you can justify having the amount of targets that Jefferson did and that not being far more. I don't care if he was a rookie or in his 14th year with that skill set, which is so high. And then look at Stephon Diggs and look at where the Bills are right now and what the Bills are doing. Understand, to me, that's probably the most important single offensive statistic going right now, because Justin Jefferson is a Ferrari. He is a special car. Yeah.
And you basically used him like he was pretty damn good, but not great.
And the word special is what you and I agree on here, because I did pull up DVOA. I'm on Football Outsiders right now.
There you go. You did it.
I know, that's right. I pull up
football.
DVOA.
You did it.
And the Vikings were 8th in offensive DVOA last year. The Vikings had a good offense. Their defense was not 8th. It was near the bottom of the league. Actually, I haven't looked up their DVOA defensively, but Pro Football Focus has them low. Yards per play has them low. Not good. Their offense was the thing that you can hang a hat on last year. And where I disagree with some Vikings fans' evaluation of this is their offense was 8th. That's not the problem. We're talking about Super Bowls here. Let's go down the list of the top DVOA offenses in the NFL this year. This is Football Outsiders ranking based on their analytics, the top offenses in the NFL. Green Bay is number 1, Kansas City is number 2, and Tampa Bay is number 3.
What are those three teams?
Buffalo is 5.
Wow.
So 4 of the top 5 offenses in the NFL, according to Football Outsiders, are playing this weekend for a chance to play in and win the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So we can sit here and like hand out awards for being 8th in offensive DVOA or 11th in points. The offense was top 10. And that gets you to the playoffs maybe if you can fix your defense next year. How do you get that offense to be 1, 2, 3, or 5 like Green Bay, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, and Buffalo? That's what needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to push the Vikings in that direction. It's like, why are you guys ripping the offense? Because it's not 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 5th. And it needs to be if they want to win a Super Bowl.
It's not modern. That's why. I mean, it's not hard. It's not modern. It's stuck in a time period that worked really, really well at one point, but that's not now.
Yep.
And look, until fans, I think, or some fans will say, well, you can't force the ball to Jefferson. Blah. Yes, you can. Yeah, he's good enough. You can force him the ball. Find ways to use him. Be creative. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, if you look at his targets, you tell me how many great offensive minds going in the game today would sit down, look at those stats, and say, "Oh, that's fine." Mm-hmm. They wouldn't.
Yeah,
they won't. They find ways to do things. And look, here's the thing: worst case scenario, they won't go in this direction. But worst case, Phil, you basically call Kirk in and say, dude, this is on you. Like Justin Jefferson, Irv Smith Jr., we've got some really nice parts here. We are going to scheme up ways and find ways that Dalvin is still going to be important, but he's not going to be the marquee guy now. And we need you to execute this. Worst case, he fails. But you know what? You find out officially then.
Yep.
And best case, he doesn't fail. And we all say, oh my God, we were pretty much wrong about that.
And I think what you'll find too is if you lean a little bit more into the aggressive upside of your offense and the passing game side of your offense, I think you'll find that Dalvin Cook doesn't go away. Dalvin Cook is probably just as good. Maybe he's not putting up the exact same yardage, but when the Vikings did this in 2009, when they said, all right, we're gonna put this a little bit more on Brett Favre in certain spots, and Peterson, your workload's actually gonna be a little bit less. Peterson was still every bit the Adrian Peterson dangerous weapon. It was just in selective situations you would take the ball out of his hands and put it in Brett Favre's hands, and that's why their offense got better. Before we say goodbye on this episode, I do want to give a nod to Gary Kubiak. If this is indeed the end of his career, 82-75 and a Super Bowl championship as a head coach. He also, as a head coach and a coordinator combined, coached 14 top 10 offenses in his career. And so Gary Kubiak, this is not meant to be a huge dump on his philosophy that has been very successful. It's just that the Vikings need a little extra step if they want to get to that top 5 offense level.
Great backup QB too in Denver for years.
And probably not a Hall of Famer, but Hall of very good that next tier, you think?
As far as like a coach?
As far as coaching goes?
Yeah. Coaching goes.
Yeah.
Just rock solid.
Yeah. I mean, one of the most underappreciated coaches.
Yep. And was a wizard at taking nondescript running backs and turning them into either Hall of Famers or Pro Bowlers or getting those guys paid.
The man had a stroke on the field and came back and coached.
Yeah.
Football.
You see, you guys say he doesn't love the sport as much as Dan Campbell. Let's see. God forbid if Dan Campbell strokes out, let's see if he comes back and coaches.
Dan Campbell doesn't just like football. Dan Campbell loves football. All right, that's a wrap on this episode of Purple Daily. Please hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel and give us a 5-star rating and a positive review on Apple Podcasts as it helps spread the word about the show. We'll see you guys later.